of x, A changes the amplitude on negative A changes, what should we say?
Inversion.
The direction? No.
Starting direction.
Changes the direction, maybe I'll say reflects over the center line. I would say x-axis, but sometimes your center line is not. And by the way, you might not recognize in your notes that that minus means negative, because sometimes people just put a dash next to notes they're making. Now, it's the exact same thing with a cosine graph. A cosine graph looks like, everybody write it in. Cosine graph looks like this. Cosine of x, we're going to keep the exact same window and hit graph, and then show that to your partner. Go to y equals and hit cosine of x. And then show your partner that you've got one. See how a cosine graph at 0 starts at 1, right, instead of 0? Okay, right now I want you to make this point, look up. I want you to make this point start at -3 instead. I want it to start down here and come up really high and really low. So talk to your partner about how to do that. Change it. Right now it starts at 1. How can you make it start at -3 instead?
Yeah, that would line up.
So what you should have come to the conclusion is -3 cosine of x should do that. Which will make it real big, but see how that at 0 it's -3, so it's kind of inverted down here, but it also stretches really wide. It's like two fancy A's. Okay, so we're doing two things today. We're talking about an amplitude and a period. Do you remember what a period is in math? What? What'd you say?
When it like repeats itself again.
Right, it's like one section before it repeats itself again. And you guys see that here, if we look at, if I get rid of this, if we just look at the original function, that happens on either side here, right? It looks like two of the exact same thing on either side, because this is 2 pi and that's 2 pi. So normally the period for sine or cosine is 2 pi. So now we're going to try something else. Let's instead try, let's go back to, I think sine is easier to look at, so write in sine of x. And this time what I want you to do is let's change the window, okay? I'm going to change the window from 0 to 2 pi instead on my x. So go to window and change it from 0 to 2 pi on the x. You should just have sine of x in there, hit graph, it should look like this. Show your partner to confirm that you did it. Everybody with me? Anybody need more time? Okay. So now what we're going to try is we're going to go to y equals, and this time I want you to write in the sine of 2x. So 2x is kind of in parentheses there. And then hit graph. So what happened? The period changed from 2 pi to do 1 rotation to what? To the number 2? Are you saying that you can get 2 rotations in the same distance?
Yeah.
So 2 rotations in 2 pi. So how long does 1 period take? 1 pi. Do you see how it took the period and it cut it by half? So when I put a 2 here, it cut it by half. So what should happen if I put a 4 here? We should get 4 waves. And if that's too much for you to look at, just go back and get rid of something that you don't want to see anymore. So if it was 4 pi, each one is, there's 4 of them in 2 pi. And if it was 2 pi, there were 2 of them in there. Anybody got a rule yet in their head? How you figure out the period?
Just dividing by half, like, yeah.
So what if I had this? Whatever number is in front of that x, what does that do?
Changes the period or X relative to pi.
B changes the period for sure. But you guys aren't being specific enough.
Would it be like 1 over b?
That is very close, because you're thinking you divide by b, right?
Yeah.
But you divide what by b?
Pi.
No,
2 pi.
2 pi, because the original period was 2 pi. You guys with me? So the original period was 2 pi, and then you divide it by b, and that's the new period. For example, if you had 2 pi, all right, example here. Let's say you had 2 pi and you divided by 2, then the new period is going to be pi. That means that it's going to rotate once every pi. So we know how to make it short, like lots more clusters, but how do I make it longer?
You have to change the number before.
You go to negative.
Okay, wait, so you're thinking sine of 4x, but it's already a 4x, right?
You need to change what you put before sign here.
Before I put what's in front of the sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
You make it negative.
Okay, let me try this first, and then I'll try the negative one in a second, okay?
So,
Okay, so here's what happens.
All right, oh yeah.
That just changed the amplitude, right? It's still rotating at the same frequency. Okay, and then what you suggested, sorry, I'll put that back up so you guys can see. That's what Kyle suggested.
Oh.
And then what Mason suggested is that we go here. Are you saying that the 4 has to be negative?
yeah, I mean, if you made that negative.
All right, so we're trying making the 4 negative. It's still rotating just as often. Yeah?
You have to do 4 minus.
4 minus?
You have to do 4 plus X, right?
Nope.
Do you divide?
45.
Ooh, let's try that. Okay. So let's try 0.5 instead.